seen too many TikToks of people like getting heart disease at an early age. Monsters. Yeah. For like 2 years straight. I don't know. Because Monster energy drinks are not regulated by the FDA. So, yeah. Right, exactly. So, back to good old Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Because that's But I'll tell you what, man, like drinking 2 to 3 Monsters a day, like even still like going back to Coke, it's like I have the worst headaches. Could also be allergies.
All right, who's coming in here? We got Jeff. What's up, Jeff?
Oh, I need to get the
Jason.
chat out. YouTube.com/Mograph. That's the new song. I don't know if y'all heard that or not.
Is it?
Yep.
Man, something is killing my CPU right now. What is it?
Is it Redshift?
I don't know. I'm a little worried about that. Give me 1 second and make sure we don't have any issues. Going down a little bit now.
Hello, everybody.
Man, what is killing my CPU? It is just having a hard time. It's probably Skype.
Probably.
I'm gonna check real quick and see before we get going. Very much could be. Do. Task
Energy drinks will lead to
manager.
kidney stones? Will they?
Oh, I've heard that about Red Bull and everything.
Hmm.
Man, this thing is
Interesting.
just churning.
Chris, are you
Oh,
standing up right now?
I
I
know why
am.
it's
You gonna stand up
churning.
this whole time?
Yeah, I'm used to it. I used to do a bunch of stop motion animation, so I stood up a
Oh,
while.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Interesting.
man, this is interesting.
yeah. I've got a mat under me, so I'll last at least 2 hours.
All right. What's up, Dave?
Oh, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do here, y'all. So, it's a good and a bad thing. It saves your settings from other things, but we are broadcasting in 4K 60 FPS, and that was not my intent.
Ooh. All right, let's
So
bring
I'm
that
gonna-
down.
I'm gonna attempt to turn it off and on. Just give me a second. Scenes.
Really?
Yeah, it does. And okay, so I got that. Let me make sure we're still good on the Mograph TV though.
I mean,
Yeah,
it looks like we
take a
are.
second.
It's right behind me.
Well, it's got a delay. It looks like this is streaming. This is
Oh,
coming
no,
back
it
on.
paused.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Oh,
pause
there we
while it
go.
does that. Let's see what it's
And
doing. Yeah.
I believe we're
okay.
back on.
I think we were successful. That's good.
Yay.
All right. And apparently I'm still low too, so my compressor actually may be back off. Let me fix that as well.
You sound fine on my side, but
Well, that's Skype. How do I sound to everybody else? Do I need to come up a bit more? I can come up a bit more. I can crank it. Buddy.
crank that soldier boy.
Crank that soldier boy. My output gain is at 4. How is that? Yes, he is on a green screen. I'm gonna up mine. Check 1 2. Oh my gosh, that's probably blowing out. Check. How's that? Hey, how do I sound at 10 dB gain? We'll go with that. If it's too loud, I'll bring it down during the show. A little bit more, huh? Okay. All right.
What's up, Dan Marino? How's Mexico? You still there? You still in Mexico?
Think so. All right. If I'm still low, just let me know in the chat, and I'll just fix it as we go. So, I'm glad everything's working and everybody can still see us, though. Man, way
better.
There
Sounds
we go.
Good. All right,
Okay,
there
cool.
we go.
Yeah, it's a good and a bad thing. It saves your settings from other systems because it's like, oh, I didn't want to do that for this show. I'm trying to go 4K with Max on for SIGGRAPH next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Cool.
Now that we are good to go, I think we can do a show. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right.
What's up and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt, and joining us this week is the super talented Mr. Kris Theorin.
Hey.
And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, grievances, artist suggestions, show topic ideas. We're on mograph.com. We're on YouTube as well, youtube.com/mograph. You can hit us up there. You can ask us your questions, info@mograph.com. You can send us an email and you can say, hey, I would like to see so-and-so on the show, or I would like to learn about something, or I'm having a problem with a thing and I don't know what it is,
Or Dave is left channel only.
Or Dave is left channel only because all his settings saved from other things. So, it's whatever. I'll try and fix that as we go here. But there's not too much to talk about in the week wrap up this week. We do want to mention that next week SIGGRAPH is going on. So there will not be a show. We're going to be up there working on live things and such. So I am copying my left channel to my right channel, and now hopefully you can hear me in all my glory in both channels. And I wonder if there's a setting for that next split. Like it's almost too good that it saves all of your settings from other things.
Yeah.
So
wouldn't you need to set up like a whole different scene or something?
It is a different scene. It's just saving. Yeah, I'm like, I don't do that for this.
Weird.
But so I was getting all that set up, and so I think we're going to attempt to do 4K, assuming that the internet is good up in Canada. But from my experience, the internet has been good up at that convention center up there.
Yeah, that convention center is really nice.
Yeah, they're real nice people up there. Those Canadians.
Gotta love the Canadians.
Yeah. So let's talk about camp real quick. Do we have any updates for camp? We've got 6 weeks now?
Yeah, it's like
Something
6
like that.
weeks. That's crazy. It's coming so fast. The biggest thing is make sure if you're coming to camp, check out the camper portal, sign up for everything. Remember that there's no linens. We're not doing linens this year. We can't do linens, so you'll need to make sure and bring your own,
linens and things.
Like sleeping bag and like pillow and like towels and stuff like that. So make sure to get on the portal. It also has a link to our Camp Mograph Discord channel. I know we've had a few people ask about that. So the Discord is there as well. What else? There was a new video put out that you can see on the Camp Mograph, either the YouTube or the portal. Dave, do you want to show that?
Yeah.
Big shout out to Adrice and Karsten for making the video for us.
Yes, absolutely. And so you can see the whole video in the portal or on the Camp Mograph YouTube page. And then we're of course slow rolling out different portions of it on social media, so you'll see it on stories and all the things. So don't worry if you can't find it, you'll see it eventually. Let me bring it up here, and we'll take a quick watch here. Let's check it out.
Welcome to Camp Mograph. Camp Mograph is a magical place for people like you and me, for the nerds and the nerdettes. When you arrive at the airport, there will be a shuttle to take you to Camp Silver Beach, and you will get there when you arrive. The shuttles will be around there for you, just like we are, but if you don't want to wait, you can order from a Lyft or Uber, and they will forcefully take your money from you. Upon arriving, you will be welcomed, and you will also be assigned a sleeping space. With others that snore or not, we hope you enjoy your stay. Here are some things that you should bring. Feel free to bring a sleeping bag, pillow, flip-flops, clothing, sketchbook or notebook, they're the same, music device, toiletries, swimming suit. Anything to make your camping trip more comfortable, not your pet lizard. Oh, would you look at that? No linens. That's why you have to actually bring some. What, you thought this was a free lunch? Speaking of lunch, there will be free lunches.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Hey guys, what does prison and camp have in common? You get 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All of that will be provided, but if you have a food allergy, please let us know. At camp, we do have classes, and they are free of charge, so don't worry about that wallet in your pocket, but do grab your pen, and make sure you sign up because they are first come, first serve. Topics range on the following: storytelling, oil painting, screen printing, texturing, business of Mograph, time and task management, find your style, motion capture. The best part of camping is the campfire, so come join us for the fireside chat every evening, where industry leaders come to chat with you about what it is that they do. During your stay at camp, there will be all sorts of activities for you to do. And that is how you get ticks. Activities at camp that you can try include zip lines, giant swings, alpine tower, archery, sandcastle competition, skate park, fitness center, high ropes course, hacky sack time, swimming. Some activities are at certain times, so check with the camp director to learn more. But of course, our wonderful time together here at camp, it just wouldn't be possible without the help from our sponsors, like Otoy and Maxon, and Video Copilot, and Grayscale Gorilla. Welcome to Camp Mograph.
So good.
All right.
That's Matt Hinman. Yeah, that's what we were going for. We were going for the Dharma Initiative videos.
The Dharma, yeah, that's exactly what we were going for.
That was the inspiration. My favorite is when he says, "What do you think? This is a free lunch?" By the way, there will be
free lunches. Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun, you know, the Red Giant VHS filter, you know, you got to have that, right?
Got to have that, yeah.
Got to have that. Yeah, we're very close. We're doing a lot more prep, getting ready to go there, and yeah, we'll have more announcements as we go. I don't know if there's anything else currently, but
no, we're just going through. We're ordering swag and stuff like that, making sure we're getting our timing all set up, because hopefully we're trying not to order everything to us. We're trying to ship it to the camp this time.
Right, it's a lot easier.
But there's a specific time in which we can do it, and there's only like a 2-week period, so we can't order stuff too early, but you don't want to order stuff too late, you know? So, so we're doing that. Big shout out to our sponsors. Like he said on the video, Otoy is our global sponsor, so thank you so much, Otoy, for sponsoring the entire event, as well as our village sponsors, both Video Copilot and Maxon, and our gold sponsor, Grayscale Gorilla. We are super excited to have everyone on board. It's going to be a lot of fun. Kris is coming, and so that's going to be the most important thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you won the Punisher Infinite Journeys challenge. Let's talk about that a little bit. Are you excited to come to camp, first of all?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. I don't really get outside that much, so this will be a nice change of pace.
Same.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, we sat and watched so many of those videos. Like I think I watched the top 100 or whatever, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times. I even had family over and I was like, check this out, and I was showing it, and it's just amazing how much went into some of those videos. There's so many people who entered, and it just so much talent, and it just still blows me away that Clinton was able to get that many people involved in this challenge.
People. That is,
I know, right?
I didn't think there was that many people doing this type of stuff.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's amazing what he's done with his channel, and I guess it's been around for 16 years. He just had his birthday party, I think yesterday, and at his birthday party he hit 1 million subs on YouTube.
That's so cool.
Hey,
so
nice.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that video and how you put it together.
Yeah. So I mean, I basically started, pretty much at the same time everyone else did. I believe in total the video took probably 2.5 weeks, with a week break in the middle when I went on vacation.
Nice.
And man, I thought it was going to be done at least, a few days before the deadline. But you know how it is with 3D. The second I rendered like the first version of it, there's so many weird glitches in it that I just kept having to do all these re-renders, and then there are all these more glitches, and so in the end it got down to 4 hours before the deadline, which for me was like at I think like 10:30 at night, which was way closer than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, for the video itself, like for the video itself, I worked with my older brother to come up with a bunch of just ideas that we thought would look sort of visually interesting, or at least got like me excited to like sort of make that environment. So the actual original one we were going to do was supposed to be basically like a murder mystery on a train, pretty much. With like some sort of twist. Basically there's gonna be like some sort of like theme, like whether it was like cyberpunk or a steampunk or some other sort of thing, just to make it have like a different vibe. But I don't know, we couldn't really think of like any way to anything that hadn't been like, I guess, done before in terms of like a theme. Not that the sci-fi one I did here isn't original, but so after that we figured out that I came up with the idea that basically I could put all the work into the foreground of the shot with like all the details and the spaceship and like all the little like knickknacks on the shelves, in the drawers and things like that, and I wouldn't have to worry about the background itself, because that was going to be a Photoshop 2D document that I made that would still look awesome, but I would save all that time on having to like make like like mountains or clouds or things like that. And I could just spend all my time on the parts you actually see, but still have like a cool sort of moving 2D environment in the background. And then the whole thing was basically designed around the fact that I had access to like some motion capture, to like a motion capture suit that I could basically animate this character in a swiveling chair, and do like some sort of just like kind of fun sort of Mario Galaxy inspired idea with trying to like feed these like space Snombler creatures, and they turn into like some sort of like blown up balloon version of themselves. I know in the video game Mario Galaxy they actually turn into like I think it was planets or giant stars or something like that. So we really drew a lot of inspiration off of that. And then the idea of the taking the sort of turret TIE fighter scene from episode 4 of Star Wars, and adapting that into this like more family friendly sort of whimsical version of it, where instead of shooting actual like lasers, it's just these like weird little candy things, and just the whole idea basically of taking like a typical like sci-fi environment that we've all seen before, like a turret, a gunner seat, all that stuff, making that just feel like more cozy, pretty much, because the character itself was a sort of like fun, playful like engineer girl, and so I love the idea of like basically making this kind of look like someone's bedroom, but it also happens to have, this is where she works pretty much, right? So you got like the bed in the corner with like I think it was like a unicorn sort of bed sheet. You have the nice carpeted floor, which was like my favorite detail of the whole thing, is not having like a sort of boring metal floor, right? And yeah, there's just a bunch of like little Easter eggs everywhere. I got like a poster from my other short film. My previous characters I made are like on another shelf, and then you have like some other random things I threw in there, like the Windows screensaver and
yeah.
And like I think there was like an old-fashioned cartoon in the top corner, but yeah, just doing all those little details and making the whole thing just seem like just a fun version of space was what appealed to me the most.
Yeah, like this, you got the sliding track here on the floor, and like the blankets. It's kind of like almost like a truck, like a semi-truck type thing, like a truck driver who's on the road all the time will have all the comforts of home in the cab, and
yeah, exactly,
kind of in it for the long haul, so to speak. No pun intended.
Yeah, and you even have like the little fuzzy dice dangling from the shelf as well, which is yeah.
And the thing I was noticing is just how much texture detail there is here. What do you do, like, as far as texturing? Do you go into something like Substance? How do you go about doing your textures for this and for your other stuff too?
Yeah, pretty much. I believe like all this basically was in Substance Painter. So I do come when I texture things, I come at the angle of like basically making it like stylized reality pretty much. So all the textures, they're all pretty realistic. But I try to make things like the proportions of humans, of various things like shelves and things like that, at least a little bit more cartoony. I mean, they're still pretty realistic overall, but I like to sort of make them all mesh with the more stylized characters that I do. So yeah, that's all done basically in Substance Painter, and then Redshift is another big part of trying to make that all sort of mesh, because there's a lot of tweaking that happens after I do the materials, and especially with hair and adding all sorts of hair fibers and stuff like all over the scene is a thing I've done like a lot more recently in like in my more recent things. Yeah, so I mean, obviously she has like the super like puffy hair and things like that, but in this, I believe it was a bit more subdued, but you have the carpet, which has like millions of hairs on it. I believe the pillow and the blanket in the corner, those also have hairs, but they're out of focus, so it's kind of harder to see.
That's interesting. Now, how do you go about doing those? Are you using actual hair, or are you doing a different technique for that?
Yeah, that's just a bunch of actual hair. It's pretty much a brute force technique to getting that in there. It does, for other scenes I've done that for, it increases render times quite a bit, but yeah, I think like beginning of this year, I became obsessed with the idea of like if I have like a piece of furniture, adding like a bunch of little hairs on that to sort of break up the otherwise like pretty smooth edge that you get from trying to do fabrics like that. And yeah, especially in like my short Grump in the Night, like every single character has so many hairs on their pajamas, on their bathrobes, and it also has like like an armchair and a carpet. So it's basically everywhere in my short films, and it's very hard to render, but I think it looks great.
Well, it's the little details like that make a difference,
Yeah, exactly.
So every little bit. What were you going to say, Matt? Sorry.
I was going to say, what did you... I saw you using a motion capture suit. What were you using? Which one was that one?
That was the Noidum's Perception Neuron 3.
Okay.
Yeah, which is one I've used for about like I think a year now, and before that I had one of their older suits. But yeah, at least with my experience with that suit, it's a great way to do like all sorts of like crazy motions without it actually having to do much cleanup work over top of it. And again, like I said, like in my other short Grump of the Night, you really see it like on display there, because there are so many shots where the character's like basically fighting with a ghost, so they're just like sort of moving around and like being flung around the room, and that's all just pretty much the raw motion capture without any like cleanup on top of it, which I was like so impressed by, like, because usually for my other older suits that I had, they were just if you've ever used mocap suits before, they do need cleanup over top of them most times.
Yes, they
especially
do.
If your feet are going to be like leaving the ground and stuff like that. But yeah, for this one, it just kind of works, and there's obviously still some issues to clean up, but overall, I was like very happy with it.
Yeah.
Man. Grump in the Night. How long were you working on that one for?
That one was about 4 months. I started it in very late December, and then finished it, I believe at the end of May, and then there was a month in between when I did this Punishers challenge that I took a break from that. So in total, 4 months.
Is this all C4D?
Yep, this is all Cinema 4D with Redshift.
Wow.
Yeah, render times were quite a lot, but
I was gonna say, what was your average frame time?
Yeah, so I mean, my setup is basically my main setup is 4 2080 Ti's just sort of shoved in one of the Puget workstations. So a single average frame on that took around 5 minutes at the lowest end, pretty much. But later in the film, when you get like all the family members together with all their hairs and the mother's pink bathrobe, which is just it brings up the render times to an extraordinary degree. I believe it doubles it to basically around 10 to 12 minutes. And there's some really long wide shots in this film where it holds on it for quite a bit. So so in total for this film, I believe it was about a month, maybe a bit more than a month to render it all.
Wow.
Yeah, it was way longer than I thought it'd be. I'm not used to rendering out 4.5 minute short films on these. I usually do much smaller clips. So
did you do any render farms? Sorry.
No, I used to do render farms way back in the day, but over time I sort of built up a collection of just like GPUs that I'll then take and put into like these workstations, and so now I have just my main computer and then another computer that I put older GPUs in, And together, those two like give me pretty decent render times. I'll use like team render to get all those shots done, and it does take a lot longer than render farms, but overall I save on money, so that's pretty good.
And I see you're using Marvelous as well. Is that?
Yeah, this one. Yeah, for this one, it was the first time I really used Marvelous for like a long form project like this. So there's so much of that going on, and a lot of duct tape over the top. So for certain scenes especially, but yeah, Marvelous was made it look so much better, but it was definitely a hassle to figure out.
I was really happy actually to see that the winner of the contest was a Cinema 4D produced piece.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, in second place too.
It's like, yeah, and it's like, yeah, I know Blender's free, but tell us about like the Substance process. I have just started getting into Substance, but I've been doing Substance Painter, especially with this Cintiq. It's really nice to be able to sit and paint stuff. But the stuff that I'm doing is Octane. I have a plugin that's kind of like a live viewer update. How do you go about the process for doing Substance Painter stuff with Redshift? Is there a plugin that kind of helps facilitate that for you?
Like facilitate the sort of setup of materials, or?
Yeah, is there like a back and forth, like where you can kind of update on the fly, or are you just kind of doing it over there and then just exporting the textures when you're done? Do you have a process for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to like sort of the latter part that you talked about. I'll pretty much get the entire look in Substance Painter, and then once I think that's pretty much final, I'll export that using like a Redshift preset, so it just exports all the maps I actually need and not all the other stuff.
Right.
And yeah, I've basically set up a preset Redshift material at this point, where I just plug them all into like the 4 channels, and the beauty of it is, if I find like if there's like some sort of issue, I can just go back into Substance, make the edit, export it again with the same file names, and it all just sort of updates in Redshift. So it's like in that way it's like a pretty seamless sort of back and forth between the programs, but not quite like a live link.
Yeah, Matthew's talking about your 3D Motion Show presentation. That was great, by the way, last week. So if anybody hasn't seen that, definitely go check that out. But we want to learn a little bit more about how you got to this point, because this stuff is incredibly polished, incredibly clean. It looks great, and you seem to have mastered a lot of different things. So
yes,
we want to kind of roll back a little bit and talk about your background, and if you went to school or didn't go to school, and how you learned what you've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I've basically been doing like 3D seriously since around 2017. I did it beforehand with like Cinema 4D, but that was very much like a far more casual. So I didn't really actually take the time to learn the program. But yeah, around 2017, 2016, I actually started to sort of figure out how to do like UV mapping, how to make a character, doing texturing, things like that. And yeah, the way I talk about how I've like sort of gotten to this point where I make these more like complicated short films just on my own over like many months, is for like the past like 2 years I've sort of started doing a thing where I make these much smaller sort of animations, like 1 or 2 shots for Instagram. Yeah, they're pretty much like just like a shot for my reel pretty much. So I'll make like a setting or a character, and then just sort of design one cool shot around that. And I found this to be like a much better way of like approaching that than what I did before that, which was actually trying to make like bigger short films, just all on my own over like the course of like 3 months. And those would often like sort of fizzle out, which was very unfortunate. Just because like sort of I was reaching too far to try and make something that was like cool and epic, and had multiple characters and all sorts of like action and stuff like that. That I would become pretty demotivated with how slow it was going, to having to like sort of trying to learn all this stuff like at once.
Yeah, dude, that is so like that just confirms that what I'm trying to do right now is actually valid in some way. Like I have a problem doing these big things because I get bored and it fizzles out. Like I'm just trying to create like little 1-second things right now that could go in a reel. That's such a great thing. What do you think like on those long projects? Oh, we lost Matt somehow.
Oh no,
that's weird. What do you think? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. what is the hardest part for you? Like, besides, I know doing like a short or something is just, it's a lot of work. Do you get bored?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's like, yeah, pretty much that's what I mean by like the by my.
Give me a second. Don't worry. You guys just keep talking.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty much
just keep
what I meant by like my older things that I've spent. There are two like big projects that I spent like 3 months on, where I developed all sorts of like workflows that I still use today, but the actual film itself sort of like fizzled out because I basically get bored, or there are also like really crushing technical debt that sort of builds up with the way I was doing things. But yeah, definitely a lot of boredom can build up with 3D because it does take like a lot of time if you're doing something long form. So yeah, like I said, like when I started doing these very short 15-second like little scenes, those were like, I love doing those because they would be done in basically like 2.5 weeks. And that's sort of like, that gets right on the threshold of like where I might start to get bored and start really wanting to do like something else. But like, I guess the way I think of it is like each of these like smaller shorts or like scenes act as sort of my own stepping stones to making bigger and bigger things. And I guess like one way to think about it is sort of building up like a tolerance to this boredom that you might get from doing 3D, whereby like, my first scene I did, I believe it was like a 5-second shot with that was like pretty simple, just like a bunch of clouds. I move on to the next one. That one was a longer, like sort of 15-second thing. I had like 2 shots, and there were like some like 1 or 2 characters in there. Go on to the next one, it's even longer, and then so on and so on. And then I'm basically, I get to where I am today, where I'm up to like I just did my 4.5-minute short with 3-ish characters and a whole bunch of like back and forth comedic action and things like that.
Yeah.
And I definitely, if I tried to do that back in like 2020. I would have definitely given up just because motivation is so tough when it's like a personal project. So yeah, I do like to think of it as building up that sort of tolerance to doing these longer and longer form projects for more and more time.
Are you doing
love that
client
idea.
work at the same time?
Yeah, so I mean, the sort of company that I work with, we do commercial projects. And so, those are on a project by project basis, so it's not as consistent. So in between those is when I fit in doing personal projects that then go on like our reel, go on our website, and show basically what we can do. And then we'll take those and like show them to clients, and then we'll get jobs based off of that. And so it's sort of a back and forth cycle.
Yeah, I'm loving that concept because if you are old like I am, I don't want to do dailies. Like I just don't. I don't want to do dailies. I don't want the stress of that. I was talking to Ariev actually the other day, and we were catching up a little bit. I was talking about the fact that like when I was a kid, I participated in this book contest where you could read a book every day and get rewarded for it. You didn't have to. It was extracurricular, but it wore me out to the point where I hated reading, and I still hate reading. And so I like the idea of like, I don't feel like I can get something decent done in one day as a daily and actually learn anything new. And so like doing like a 2 or 3 day project, and like you said, take like a 1 shot, maybe even in your head, create a lore around it if you want, create a story around it or whatever.
Exactly.
Make that, chunk that out, put that out as Instagram, as a reel, as a TikTok, whatever you want to do. And then you can do that in between projects, because if you try and say, oh, I want to do like a 3-4 week long project, inevitably a client's going to call you, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to start, and then you're going to come back and be like, I'm just not into this project anymore. You're going to fizzle. And it just feels like a great way to do things and to actually learn something new. So, highly recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the yeah, like you said, like it is like doing those shorter things is a great way to sort of motivate myself to learn new things. And if you really like scroll like down my Instagram, like get further and further into the past, you see like in between like or as I do each of these like shorter shots, with each one I'll add like a new sort of thing that I wanted to learn. So in one it was like doing clouds. The next one I was like doing like actual like facial animation on characters. After that, I was like doing like hair dynamics, then cloth dynamics, and so it really is also building up like all those different like techniques that I can then use in like a longer short form thing.
What's the next technique you want to learn?
Yeah.
The one I'm working on right now, I'm working on. I'm going to be done animating my next 3-minute short today. And
Nice.
that one, the technique I really wanted to do was really, I guess, refine my the look of like my human characters and getting the sort of skin textures and the subsurface scattering looking normal, and get some nice like hair and all that stuff. So that one really is just more refining, I guess, my earlier sort of experiments with doing humans like I did in Grump of the Night. But now I took like a bunch of like the Mega Scans human characters that they or no, the Unreal human characters that they came out with.
Metahumans,
Yeah, the metahumans, that's it.
Yeah.
I took those, took all their textures, like the skin textures for like a face and the body and stuff like that, and then tried to apply it to actually my like more stylized characters as an experiment, which I actually think turned out pretty well. I mean, we'll see in the final renders, but that's basically the new sort of technique I'm trying to work on.
Let me ask you this, because watching Grump in the Night, you definitely have this very stylized look and stuff like that. And I was watching a Pixar movie or something the other day, or I was watching Toy Story 4, and I was noticing like there are certain scenes that are so realistic, like hyper realistic, and it's like, but it's still a cartoon. And at what point do you have to like pull back and be like, no, this is still a cartoon. I can't make this so realistic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Sense? Yeah, I mean, like I basically try and chase after the sort of Pixar style that they do, especially nowadays, where it's like they have like the most realistic of styles, where they're just like one step away from being just like photoreal. So that's why I try and aim for, and that's why I tried to aim for with like Grump the Night, but it obviously doesn't go as far as they have in like, some of their recent films like Soul, where the humans are like really, really lifelike and almost to the point of being a little creepy, but they make it work because, they're Pixar.
Right.
But yeah, at the moment, because I'm not as good as Pixar, I haven't had any sort of need to pull back on detail and make it feel a bit more stylized. I would say the only at least for Grump of the Night, the only time when I have to actually like consciously avoid going realistic is just with when I was modeling things like the furniture, the chairs, making those proportions at least feel cartoony, because when you try and do these like stylized characters, the first thing you realize, putting them next to like a human proportion chair or human proportion TV, is that this does not look right. Like these characters don't seem like they're meant for this chair, and it feels like you just plopped them into a completely different set. So that's like one thing you always have to keep in mind, which is the tough part about doing like this realistic, stylized sort of approach that I do.
Yeah, it's like realistic textures with more cartoony figures. And,
yeah, exactly.
And objects.
Yeah, like the
things.
chair.
Like,
the chair definitely has a style to it.
Right.
But it's using realistic textures.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the Pixar way. But you also have, besides like very amazing character work, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do.
So killer. Killer.
You also have a great sense of shot composition, especially lighting. Everything's super vibrant.
Camera
the lighting
work is really good.
Where did you learn some of that stuff? Where did those techniques come from?
Yeah, I mean that like I've done a bunch of like, I guess I've been doing film for a while. So before doing CG animation, before that I did stop motion animation with like toys and Legos and things like that. And in terms of like an introduction to filmmaking, or at least animation, starting out with like doing stop motion with like Lego figures or something like that is like a great way to start to develop your own, I guess, style for both lighting and animation and all that stuff, because it's a great like very small form, very sort of simple way of figuring out like what sort of shots work for you, and sort of refine and practice your lighting. And the whole time I was doing that, and before that, I also did like live action films, where it's sort of the same thing. It's always just being able to practice and figure out your own style. But one thing I love to do is just, I watch and rewatch movies and TV shows just a bunch, just because it's something I like to do. But while I do that, I like to sort of observe like how the shot compositions work, the sort of what sort of camera moves they do from shot to shot, and then I like to like sort of steal those ideas and like put them in my own films. So there's like a bunch of shots and things like in like Grump of the Night and like shorts I've done before that where I can point to certain angles and name the film that I sort of borrowed that from as inspiration. So that's like one way I try to like build up my repertoire of shots that I'll do.
And something
Brett,
I mentioned. Oh yeah,
go ahead.
this is related to Brett's question. Did you perform the mocap for the characters yourself? And in your process video, it shows you doing that. And I love what you've done. Like there's one shot in particular where like you fall back, right? And so you put the pillow behind you on the couch, so you really get that sense that you're actually hitting something. You're not just kind of trying to act it out. The question that I asked you, I think behind the scenes when we were doing the motion show last week was, do you have any sort of like formal acting training or have you been involved in anything that helps you? Because it feels like the expressions and your motions and everything are just very well done. It's just like you have that skill. Does that come from anywhere, or is that just kind of natural?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I've done like short film. I've acted in short films before. I did plays in high school, but really like I'm not really much of an actor. So I think like I said, I think like last week, like a lot of this comes from basically just experience where I'll do the mocap for like one short film, take it into Cinema 4D, put it on the character, and realize like, okay, this looks like way too subdued. I need to like move my arms out, like turn my head more. Just because when you put the first thing you sort of realize when you put them on stylized characters, it's not going to transfer correctly, and so you really have to, when you're doing this, make it more exaggerated, just make it more
theatrical,
like
right? Yeah, like like if you were acting it out on stage as opposed to just in front of a camera.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if you're doing it on stage, you do have to make it bigger, pretty much.
Yeah.
And especially for Grump in the Night, where that one's like a very sort of slapstick comedic. Timing has to be very snappy. That one was like a huge challenge for me. So I basically tried to channel like my inner animated character persona, where when I stand in a position, I will not move. I won't like sway back and forth. I'll try and like stay pretty stiff and solid, and then sort of mime it out as if I was trying to imitate this character from this cartoony stylized thing. So I mean, and with the facial expressions too, like it's all just sort of something. I mean, when I'm doing the mocap, I obviously don't really record my own facial performance, but I do it anyways, just because if I'm acting, I'll just make the expression just to help myself. But
yeah, I was gonna say, can't you reference that? Do you reference that at all whenever you're like actually animating the faces and stuff?
Yeah, not really. I mean, basically I'll sometimes do the right expression for the moment, but but if you like look at like the if you look at things like the Space Nobblers shot, I'm doing completely the wrong expression in that one. I look very angry and intense, and the character's meant to be this very fun, playful character. So I don't really reference it that often, especially because for things like Grump of the Night and Space Nobblers, the emotions they're doing, it's not as nuanced as you might get in like a Pixar film. So I can get away with basically just eyeballing it with just knowing that the character needs to be sad here, then they need to be like happy in this part, and then I'll sort of just sculpt the face with like my facial rig until something looks right. And so I don't really spend the time to make sure it like sort of matches what I did when I did the mocap.
Yeah.
I had a question. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. Tell us a little bit about your studio and the background and the family and everything, because there are other people working with you as well. It's not you working solo at a studio. So tell us about everybody else's involvement on projects like this.
Yeah, so me and members of my family, we started this Something's Awry, our production company, back in 2015 when we were still doing when we had done stop motion animation for various like toy companies. And since then, that sort of transitioned into doing 3D animation, which, you know, there's a lot more work for, and it was also a lot more freeing than having to worry about, you know, things like stop motion, where you have all these physical sets you have to build and characters and things like that. But it turned out, it works out very nicely because we each of us sort of occupy our own like sort of section of the business, where I handle pretty much all the production aspects of it, post-production, and sort of direct that whole thing. Then we have our producer, and then we have my older brother, who will do all the sort of writing and scripts, and then my other brother will help out with other script writing as well. But so in that way, you know, we do have sort of almost like kind of like a little pipeline that we can work on, where we each have our own sort of section that communicates back and forth, but there's not really as much overlap with sort of the way we're all set up.
Do you all work on the shorts as well, or is it like are other people working on like a client project and you're working on a short?
Yeah, there's always multiple things going on. So like so we'll be working on like, you know, pitches for like for show ideas while I'm doing like my short films, while, you know, our producer is working on like getting various jobs and sort of things like that. But of course, you know, with all these like shorts like Run for the Night, there was some collaboration at some point where my older brother was able to sort of take this idea and expand it out into an actual fully fledged script. And then once the film was released, you know, our producer was able to then take that and try and promote it, give it to film festivals, and get sort of the word out about it.
I know what I was going to ask you earlier on the character thing was about your facial rig, because you mentioned that on the 3D Motion show, and you mentioned that you have been working on this for a while. I think like you've had this rig kind of, it's something that you've been, I guess, using and maybe upgrading over time. And tell us a little bit about the rig and what you've got set up, like the splines and everything.
Yeah, so I mean this rig is one I basically came up with back in 2020 for one of my since canceled longer short films that I mentioned. But I was able to, this is when I first made this whole like spline setup with all these controllers and for the hands and the face and all that. And since then, I've basically just taken this control panel I made and just copied it between all my different characters. So I just didn't have to remake it. And then for the actual facial rig, I use the pose morph tag and create like a number of different like face shapes just to hit any sort of emotions that I think the character will need in this particular short. So I talked about it in the motion design show, where I actually made basically a whole setup of faces in a Photoshop document that just sort of list out like, okay, I need like a smirk, a frown, I need the mouth to be doing like this shape, and I need the eye to be blinking. Just basically a checklist I go through every time I make a new character, where I know like these shapes work. They work with the control panel I made, and they will generally achieve the facial expressions that I need for my usual short films. Now this facial rig won't work for like any sort of Pixar level stuff. You know, the characters can't even speak because I didn't have to make
I was going to ask about that.
For that, yeah.
Yeah.
So they can't do that, but you know, for when they need to be happy or sad or crying, like it really works great for that. And I save so much time just doing the sort of streamlining the whole workflow down to just what I need. So from start to finish, making my facial rigs takes only about 2 hours nowadays, which I think is pretty good for, just because I've done this for so many characters over the last like 2 years.
What about audio though, and like sync to speech? Have you done anything hardcore on that level?
I almost did for a particular project, but that ended up not being the case. So luckily, you know, for a commercial project, I did do that, where I did actually have to make all the facial shapes. Yeah, this is that's the chart there, where I did have to make all the facial shapes for doing speaking and all that stuff. Luckily, I don't do it often because it can be a very tedious thing going through it every few frames and, you know, doing the mouth shapes to make it feel like a fluid speech. But overall, when I'm designing these short films that I do just on my own, I try to make them avoid like complex like interactions between characters in terms of talking. I also just love doing nonverbal sort of short films, because those I find them to be a lot more visual and just more appealing to me. But it is a nice bonus that it does avoid having to do the extra work of having all these like conversations and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I got a script for you. I'll send it your way.
There's something about the like characters that don't talk. It's very Pixar-ish, you know, especially the early days of Pixar, where they're just expressing a story and emotion without any dialogue whatsoever. And I don't know, it seems to work well for Pixar. So
I try and channel Pixar whenever possible.
Yeah. There's also like a set of, and I'm very much not familiar with character animation stuff, so there's like a set of phonics and everything that you can go by if you're doing all of that. And man, that just seems so tedious to me, you know.
It is.
Oh man, I just can't get my brain to sit there and like pay attention to it, you know. So major props on that. Like, I can imagine. What is the hardest expression you think to convey in a character?
I can only talk based on my own recent experience, but for my most recent short that I'm working on, it's like a horror short. So at least with the facial rig I've not had to do as many sort of pure horror things. So the expression of just pure terror is really, there's a lot of nuances in the face that. Because when you scrunch up your face in just absolute horror, so much happens in every part of like the brows and the eyes and the face that I never really thought about when I made this facial rig, or made the all the shapes and stuff like that way back when. So that's been a challenge to really push it to that point where you can tell this character looks absolutely horrified.
Do you end up looking in the mirror or on your phone a lot trying to compare?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes. Not as much as I imagine like more professional like Pixar animators, but I do it sometimes for tricky expressions.
Now, I remember even as a kid seeing like the animators for Disney doing 2D, having a mirror and like looking back and forth and all of that, you know.
Yep. That's that classic animators toolkit.
Yeah.
So you've got this one that you're working on now, and you said, so when is it going to release, actually? Do you have a date on that?
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask real quick, if I can interrupt. You said you were almost done with animation. How long does each of these stages take you? You know, for example, you spent 4 months on Grump in the Night. How much of that was animation? How much of that was texturing? How much was lighting? How much was camera setup?
Yeah, I mean, animation, like every time I do these like longer short films like Grump of the Night, or I did like a film Cyber Kicks last year.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. The animation, because I use motion capture to get a good starting point, and then I'll build off of that with facial animation and just refining it. It takes a lot less time than I usually anticipate. So for Grump of the Night, it was 2.5 weeks to animate the whole thing, start to finish. For the one I'm working on now, I haven't checked the dates on that, but I believe it's 2 weeks. If I subtract working on actual like commercial projects in between that, but I believe that was about 2-ish weeks, which is pretty on par for this. Is gonna be like a 3-ish minute film. And then like Cyber Kicks last year, I believe that was probably, I think that was also 2 weeks or something like that. Wow. But yeah, it's still like, this is still me working pretty much every day on it during those 2 weeks, but it takes a lot less time just because motion capture obviously gives you a good place to start from.
Of course, yeah.
In terms of the rest of it, how long those sections take, like a lot of these like 4 months that at least Grump the Night took is on pre-production, where I have to build up all the characters from scratch, build the environments, texture, do all that. So yeah, pre-production on all these things that does take probably like a month or a month and a half.
I love these little stick figures running right here. I don't know why it's so funny to me. But and things like cameras and stuff. The camera animation and figuring all that out doesn't take nearly as long. But that's probably like at least when I do the storyboards, which is basically when I, in my mind at least, come up with all the camera angles and how that's going to go. That takes me about like 4 days. But Are you methodical on your approach to this stuff, or non-linear in building this? And I'll give you an example. Like when I'm building stuff, I feel like I'm all over the place. Like I'll do kind of like, I'll kind of map out like some blocking of a scene, and then I'll actually kind of maybe at some point get into like the lighting, but then I'll move to the camera move, and then I'll go back to like texturing, and it's like this non-linear, like, okay, is this camera move going to work before I build all of this, you know? One of those. Do you find yourself skipping around, or are you very like super methodical?
When it comes to like animation, I'm pretty methodical about it, where I have it basically down to a whole pipeline of just doing the mocap, then refining the mocap, then doing the facial animation, then doing the camera animation, then finally copying it all over into my actual production scene, and that's pretty much it for like a shot. But in terms of like actually sort of planning out the film, at least like in these like doing my storyboards is like the hardest like creative part of it, because I'm basically planning out the whole film as I do it, even though, you know, I'm just drawing stick figures. But again, in my mind, I do have like a more fleshed out view that I have to create when I'm doing these like sort of rough boards. For things like cyber kicks, basically, I did do that super out of order in terms of planning it. So because that one basically was a music video where I had to time it all to the music. So the way I planned it is like I had no idea when I started it how the story would progress shot to shot. So I basically took like the moments I actually had in my mind, like key moments, especially like in the bass drops of the song or something like that, where I had this like very clear idea of how everything would go. I planned that out, put that chunk in like the animatic, and then go to like the next section that I had figured out, which would probably be like, you know, a minute later or a minute before. I planned that out, have another chunk there, and then I have to basically bridge these gaps. So I was doing it like bit by bit, just sort of like figuring out this little bit, then that bit, and just sort of putting it together like puzzle pieces, basically, until it finally like met in the middle, and it was all like, you know, all done.
I mean, I think that's a great way of working on things. Like, it's like just to go start to finish, you know, you may end up going back and realizing that you should have set something up a different way, or blocked something out a different, you know, and it just feels like a great way of going about it. This one's a little bit older. What's the name of this one again?
What was the name of it?
This is here. Let me just. This is
I can't remember. Space Race. Yeah.
Space Race. There it is. Yeah. Tell us about this one. So this is older. So tell us what you were learning in this particular process.
Yeah. So this was the thing I did right before Cyber Kicks. And I think let's see, this one, the idea of it at least, I think the main thing I wanted to incorporate was the whole Megascans environment that we see here. So this was actually a longer form project that I then my motivation sort of fizzled out by the end of it. So I was like, for the sake of not just abandoning it completely, I turned it into this sort of shorter 30-second thing. So it was basically meant to be like an expansion of like the skills I had figured out beforehand. I wanted to make it into more of a, you know, beginning, middle, and end, like 2-minute story, but we just couldn't really figure out how the story might go for that, because it is kind of like a weirder one where, you know, just like this astronaut in this rainbow lava canyon. So
you know, like you do.
You do. So that one, that was basically another, basically the middle ground between, you know, doing my shorter 10-second things and the 1.5 minutes that Cyberkicks was. This one was about like 30 seconds, and it had, you know, like 6 shots in it. They were all like dynamic and had, you know, a bunch of stuff to sort of figure out. So, you know, like I said, that was a stepping stone to bridge the gaps between like this very small Instagram little shot that I did, and then the music video that Cyberkicks was.
So what, as far as content for clients, what kind of things are you doing for clients?
Yeah, so you know, the things that we specialize in as a company is like definitely more cinematic stuff. So you won't really see many examples of more your typical, like, I guess more I don't know if corporate's the right word, but definitely the more sterile approach to animations. All of our stuff, we love to have more dynamic camera angles, camera moves. We've done definitely a bunch of like at least several music videos and stuff before. So yeah, whenever we're doing something for a client, it's always going to be focused on the more storytelling, doing like a bit longer of like a storytelling short. Even if it's just 30 seconds, we're still gonna basically treat it as if it were a short film. So that's the sort of stuff we tend to do, and that's what clients will come to us for. Just yeah, and you know, so it's we try to treat it the same way we might with our own like personal projects in terms of how we plan the shot angles, do the music, do the editing, and that's where we think we like shine as a company.
How do you come up with the different concepts?
Yeah, I mean it really depends on concept to concept, but a lot of it, at least early on, is really just like whatever I find to be like the coolest shot. Like for this one, at least with the burger guy, I'm just obsessed with the idea of placing like a little person in this like huge like environment, but you know it's just made up of everyday things. So you know something like a picnic table in the background becomes this like huge giant structure. And this like you know little puddles like this giant like little lake with like these huge French fries, that sort of stuff like I'm endlessly fascinated by. So there's a few examples on our website where I do that sort of miniature person in like a big world. Other things there's a lot of food a lot of food things, like the Serial Samurai one that I did is a similar sort of vein of a small guy in a big world.
Yeah, reminds me of like Little Big Planet. Do you ever play that game?
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
Little Big Planet. That is definitely my vibe for sure.
Yeah.
Recently, I've started to force myself not to do the small guy in big world stuff, because I've done it a few times before, and my writers, especially like my brothers, want me to do something else. So, yeah, so I avoid that now. But even so, like anything that sort of plays into the more colorful, more sort of vibrant, fun animations that I do, that's the sort of stuff I'll gravitate towards.
Brett in the chat is asking if you have any cool skinning tools or techniques.
Yeah, I mean my main go-to thing is using Mixamo.com. Right after I come out of ZBrush with like a sculpt of a character, I'll take it into Mixamo.com. And it just creates an automatic skeleton rig of the character, and I can put all sorts of like crazy motion capture animations on top of that. And that's a really good way of like seeing your character like actually come alive super early on in the process, which is just awesome because you can like because if it's like if it's like Cyber Kicks where it's this parkour film and the character's jumping and sliding, I just brought that character into it, and I put a bunch of like parkour animations that they just had on the website onto the character. I could check proportions, make sure the arms weren't too long or too short, and then everything sort of felt right. And then once that's done, I just download the skeleton and then refine it further in like Cinema 4D, and that gets me like most of the way there. You know, especially for just like humanoid shaped characters. The skeletons you get from Mixamo are just like almost like perfect, and especially even the finger animation is actually there. So it just takes some refining, going through every joint, making sure there's not any weird issues, but overall it saves me so much time.
And what about like back to the like the substance stuff, back to the Substance Painter stuff a little bit, and the fact that you were talking about ZBrush, like the texturing, like you have to be more than just good at using Substance. You have to kind of have an understanding of the art, and you have to have an understanding of like, I don't know, you have kind of need like a Photoshop background going into it. And then with ZBrush, you kind of need a little bit of a sculpting background. You know, where does that come from you? Because we haven't talked about ZBrush at all, but like, how long have you been doing that?
Yeah, ZBrush, I started learning that in middle of 2019. I took a course, 3D character workshop that basically went from beginning to end in terms of creating my own character. And so I basically use that as a way to make my characters from there. But like I've said before, that my ZBrush experience, or at least my knowledge of the program, is very much limited to just like the niche that I need to fill to actually sculpt a character and then export it into, you know, Substance Painter or somewhere else. So I would not call myself like nearly an expert especially like a sculpting expert. I don't actually have like any previous like sculpting experience.
I was gonna ask because like you did
Yeah.
stop motion stuff. I didn't know if you actually like made any of these characters or.
No. Yeah, I never got involved in that. But if I did, you know, my characters that in like my 3D short films, they definitely don't get the way they're modeled. They don't get very sort of they aren't very detailed in terms of all the sculpting techniques and levels of detail that I've seen like in everyone's like awesome ZBrush sculpts online and things like that. I get nowhere near close to that, but for the sort of stylized look that I go for, like I think, you know, the way I do it is basically where it needs to be without adding like all this like extraordinary amounts of sort of extraneous detail.
What do you have going on next after this one that's about to drop? Do you already have ideas for like what's going on after that?
Well, I mean, first off, I wouldn't say this one's not about to drop, but in like
Well,
a month, maybe a month,
close.
month and a half.
It's
Animation's
close.
done, right? It's basically
Yeah, nothing else
Yet
to do.
see what the render times are like for this one, so it's probably going to be closer to the end of August, maybe, middle of September, let's say.
You got to finish it before camp, so you're not sitting there thinking about it the whole time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I know, right. It is a race between all like the various life events that are coming up. So
Release it a week before camp, so you're the talk of camp the entire
That's
time.
right.
it might end up being around then. So you know that'll work out.
Yeah.
So after that, we do have like several like commercial projects that we're also working on. So that's probably going to take like priority in terms of big things that I work on.
Right.
But in between then, like I do want to get back to at least doing some much smaller, smaller shots for Instagram that are like, you know, 5 to 10 seconds that really just sort of scratch the itch that I have for like doing certain scenes and things like that. Because I'll always like be looking on Pinterest and spot like some awesome like piece of art that just gives me like a great idea for an environment and a character to make. And the way I get sort of the way I scratch the itch is just, you know, make it into an actual very, very small thing. I'll post that on Instagram and put it in our reel. So nothing definite at the moment, since I'm focused on getting this one done and then working on the longer form commercial stuff.
That's cool.
Brett also asked, have you tried any of the new C4D cloth tools yet?
Not yet, no. Yeah, I use the Cinema 4D cloth stuff. Definitely if there's like sort of very, very definitely for things like capes and things like that. But I do focus on Marvelous Designer if I need like an actual outfit that's draped over a character. Yeah, since I don't think it can really handle that, especially for things like Grump in the Night, where the characters are getting very sort of they're very animated. So I don't really experiment with the cloth stuff as much.
Yeah, I was playing with the rope stuff a little bit and some of the cloth stuff this week, and I like it. I just haven't had a good reason to use it yet. You know.
Yeah.
Just following along with some of the stuff that Chris Schmidt was showing off recently, like 26.1 and all of that.
Speaking of Chris Schmidt, let me interrupt for a second. Half-res tickets just went on sale.
Oh, snap.
Yeah,
Everybody get on right now before they're sold out. We're going to be going.
We will be there, yes.
Yeah, we will be there in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah. Chris, have you gone to any sort of like in real life meetups or anything recently? Are you looking forward to anything? Are you going anywhere besides camp, of course?
I have not, no, but one day I would be excited to finally go to like some in-person thing.
Yeah, it's really great meeting people in person and being able to sit down and have a beer and just chill and talk about the nerd stuff. You know, it's such a great feeling. Like it's just a sense of community, you know, and just
exactly.
Being online doesn't really give you the same feeling, you know, it's different. So we'd love to see you at an event sometime, you know, especially something like NAB or SIGGRAPH. I'm not sure what SIGGRAPH is going to be like anymore. Like I'm really wondering, but also I was going to ask you about the business aspect of the company. Are you involved in that, or do you just generally concentrate on the art? Do you have time for the business part of it?
I mean, really, I guess it depends on sort of what you mean by the business part of it. Because I'm certainly involved in sort of the direction we wanna take certain things in the company, and involved in sort of in at least getting the jobs that we do, winning pitches and things like that.
Like if you're like if you're pitching something, you know, we talked about that idea of doing like these little clips and things. These are very marketable things, right? Like from a business standpoint, like it's fun to do, it's fun to learn stuff, it's all of that. But at the end of the day, you still have to market yourself, and I feel like that's a really good strategy. As far as pitches and things, do you sketch stuff out? Do you put some R&D time in? Do you maybe I know some people will actually do like come up with a concept or something. I know a lot of people don't like to do that unless they're being paid. Like as far as that business aspect, maybe not like the day-to-day accounting and things, but like as far as that, do you work a lot on that? Do you strategize?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like for pitches, like I'm very much involved in anything visual for that. So coming up with, I've done a bunch of style frames before. We do like a bunch of like, sometimes we'll make actual like characters and do the texturing and figure out like the look dev for that. Which, you know, it definitely isn't, it's something I'll do. And then for the pitches, I'll actually be the one who sort of delivers the pitch and goes through our sort of approach to how we might do this. But yeah, I mean, as I'm sure anyone who's done pitches can know, it's a very sort of, I guess, thankless thing sometimes, just because you can put all this work into like an awesome looking style frame, but if they don't pick you, it just kind of goes away and fizzles away. So I have a whole little folder of just like forgotten style frames that it's very sad, but you know, that's how it goes.
Yeah. How do you decide how much time to devote to that if you are? Because obviously, you know, well, most of the time you're not getting paid. I know that people like Barton doesn't do that. You know, he says, you know, if you want us to come up with style frames, we're going to do it. We're going to be paid to do it, of course. Like that makes sense to me. So if you are kind of just putting it out there to try and get something, like how do you decide like that balance? Like how much time are you going to devote to this? Like how important is it that you get that one particular gig?
Yeah, like it's very tough because for a lot of style frames you don't get, or for a lot of pitches in general, you don't really get paid for your time. So it really is a sort of weighing the cost of the actual, like how much you would receive from getting like this job versus how much you're going to put into actually trying to pitch for it. So if it's like obviously if it's like a much lower budget sort of job that you might get, you know, I'm not going to put as much time into try and make a style frame, or whatever sort of style frame I'll think up will basically tailor itself to the fact that this is like a low budget project. It needs to be done, needs to have like a quicker sort of approach to making something that looks good. But then for the bigger ones, you know, I'll spend multiple days working with other artists who are doing modeling while I'm doing like texturing and lighting and things like that. So yeah, it's just, you basically kind of, for all these, you kind of like have to do it if you want to have the opportunity at least to get a job. But you know, it does get to you after a while of like many failed pitches, but you know, that's just something, you know, that's part of the job.
For sure.
I think we're going to open up some questions in case there are some questions. In the meantime, we're going to go to Mograph Recommends, which is our segment where we ask you some of your favorite things. Matt, I'm cracking up at your dog back there. Matt's dog has been mangled by a groomer.
We brush the dog all the time. It's a golden doodle, so, you know, of course, like, they just didn't want to work, you know? And they're like, oh, it's all matted. We got to shave him. You know,
No.
And so now he just looks like a giant rat.
But
You know,
he has like the biggest curly puffy hair in the universe.
Yeah.
And like he's standing there the other day. I'm like, Matt, whose dog is that? He's like, that's my dog. I'm like, oh my god, looks completely different. Poor little thing. Poor George.
Yeah.
George
George
Bailey. They Mary. They mangled my hair, Mary.
Oh, real quick, can I talk about the speakers for half res?
Sure.
Because they just announced those.
Oh, okay.
So,
Who's that?
Yeah. Okay. So you got Gavin Shapiro. These are all friends of Mograph's. Clinton Jones, Colin Likes, Jonathan Winbush, and Joey Cornman.
Dang, that's gonna be fun.
It will be fun.
I'm gonna bring up the website. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Yeah. Where is it? Somewhere around here.
halfres.com.
Here we go. Man, oh, they got a whole new website and everything. This is super cool. All right, here, let me bring it up. Detour. Look at this. Look at this. Nice website, y'all.
Yeah.
Look, the cubes, the little cubes.
Yep.
Chris, you got to just come out to half res, man. No big deal. I know you're finishing up something, but don't worry about it. Just, yeah. Look at this. Oh, attendees. I love that they do this. You can see who got their tickets.
Do too.
I'm assuming we're getting tickets automatically. We don't have to sign up, do we?
I started buying the tickets and I was like, wait a second, we're sponsoring.
I know.
Why am I buying tickets?
I don't know. We can get some anyway.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the speakers.
Yes.
Gavin Shapiro.
Yes.
Clinton Jones. Oh man, this is gonna be so much fun, y'all.
Yeah,
Colin Likes, Winbush. Oh my gosh, all our friends are speaking.
All
this
of
is
our
great.
friends. Yeah.
Joey. Oh man, this is
fun.
awesome.
We
Awesome.
actually tried to get Joey for Camp Mograph.
camp, yeah.
He was gonna be one of our speakers. Like we threw it out to him, and he's like, "I think I'm busy." And I'm like, "Okay, well, this is why."
But that's the week before. See, he could have done both. Chris is coming to camp,
have.
right? So
Yeah, I believe so.
And the theme, hilariously enough, with us sponsoring, the theme is Mograph is dead.
I was wondering about that.
Long live Mograph.
Long live Mograph.
This is related to the fact that our industry has changed so much in the last few years. You know, we've gone from just everybody doing motion graphics to all of a sudden it's this merge between like video games, and we've got crypto art, we've got AI, and like gosh, there's just so much going on with it. And from us who have kind of been around like since before the Mograph times, like doing the early 2D graphics, the Mograph.net days. You remember those days and all that? We've seen a lot of change, and so this is going to be really interesting, and we're going to get to see what everybody's opinion is on what's going on in the industry, and of course hang out.
Yeah. They're going to do a panel discussion this year, which will be interesting to see. So,
yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, aside from that sidebar, make sure you get your tickets. We're going to have a lot of fun. Let's do the Mograph recommends while I go use the restroom, Matt, because I'm like going on like 800 coffees right now. And we're going to start out with your favorite movie. And these can be all time, or these could be recent. And also, you can give us more than one. So take it away, and I'll be right back.
Favorite movie? Is that what it is? Chris, can you hear us?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. What's your
right.
favorite movie?
Favorite movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone would say there's definitely a bunch. If I had to pick one, I would say Coraline is definitely one of my
good choice.
One of the high ones. I'm always trying to emulate that sort of vibe that I got from watching Coraline in my stuff. So, and just everything about it, the production design, the characters, the character design, and just the whole creepy, whimsical, colorful story that they have, I think is just awesome.
Yeah, you should go back and listen to our podcast with Tori Bryant. She actually worked on Coraline and a lot of the other stuff at Leica. It was awesome. Very, very cool podcast. Yeah, she'll be at camp.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's teaching one of the workshops. Coraline, man, it's such a cool movie.
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok the other day where someone had created these like fake Coraline masks, with like buttons for eyes and stuff. It was very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah. All right, let's see. After favorite movie, I believe it's favorite TV show, current or of all time.
Yeah, that one's a tough one because I've never made like an actual list of like my favorite TV shows. But just off the top of my head, I would say I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad back in the day.
Yeah.
That one's a great one. I also I also like Attack on Titan a lot as well.
Okay. I've heard
two
good things
very
about
different
Attack
shows.
on Titan. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one. A recent show I loved is Arcane as well. You know, that one did an amazing job at that. The whole sort of visual approach to it is just incredible.
He said Breaking Bad.
Oh, okay, good. I'm sure Kevin is pleased. Where is he? He's in the chat. Come on, Kevin.
He was. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So movie. Let's just go straight to TV show. Wait. Breaking Bad is not a. Oh, okay. Wait. What was the movie?
Coraline.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. You should watch the episode with Tori.
That's what I said.
Okay, cool. I guess I shouldn't go pee. See, I miss all the good stuff.
That's funny.
Let's talk about music a little bit. What kind of music do you listen to while you're working, if any?
Yeah, so I have a long list of like various playlists I've made for each month. Pretty much, I'll just find all sorts of music on like Spotify. All of them basically leaning into the sort of pop music or pop rock type music. If I had to name like some sort of artist, I would say I do have like at least a handful of songs from places like Owl City and AJR. But it's so many different people.
You lost me at Owl
that
City.
realm.
I'm sorry. I can't do Owl City.
It's a yeah.
When can I see you again?
I scrolled through my whole like iTunes library of songs, and there is definitely a little chunk of Owl City in there, so I figured I'd put it on this list.
So I have like only a handful of music that's still like from iTunes because I'm a Spotify person,
right?
And it's in my phone, and my car does that thing. My car does that thing where like it just starts playing random iTunes music, and I swear it always picks Owl City because I downloaded an album because I was supposed to do some art for them like 10 years ago or whenever it came out for like a concert tour, and then it didn't happen. Right, so I have this stupid album on my phone, and it doesn't even matter if it's unsynced or what it is. I get in the car and I hear "In a candy apple, butterfly, rainbow in the sky," and I'm like, oh my gosh, the lyrics to these songs drive me nuts. I'm sorry if you like Owl City, but it's like the one. It's the one. I just can't.
No, I fully accept that their lyrics are quite a lot sometimes.
I like
it's so cutesy.
Yeah.
I mean,
For sure.
And if you're a Postal Service fan, it kind of pisses me off because he sounds too much like Postal Service. But
yeah.
But anyway, there's Kevin.
Yep.
I will never stop talking about Breaking Bad and The Wire.
Yep.
Oh, really? Breaking Bad? I should check those out. Better Call Saul, by the way. Man,
Haven't seen it.
so freaking good. It's better than Breaking Bad.
Is it?
You should watch it. You should
All
definitely watch it.
Man,
God, it's so
I had
good.
a hard time on the first couple seasons. It's just
It's
like I
so
couldn't
good.
like Breaking Bad I was into, and I was into every episode, you know, like at no point was I like I'm bored. You know,
Really?
except
You were
for
bored?
The Fly episode, I was bored with that one.
Yeah,
You
well.
know, on Breaking Bad. But yeah, like I get like lawyers. I don't really care about that.
It's so good. Dude,
Yeah, all right.
you got to finish it.
All right.
All right. Do you listen to podcasts besides ours?
I do not. I think the one podcast I listened to, the one podcast I listened to like 2 weeks ago was Against All Odds. I think it was called, where they just go over. They basically do a dramatized version of various like events, like dramatic events, like the Thailand cave rescue from a while back and other things like that. I listened to like a few ones of that, but that's like basically the only podcast I've listened to in quite a while.
And Against All Odds being a Postal Service, the name of the Postal Service album, isn't it? I believe it is.
All right. No, that's called it's Give Up. Against All Odds, or is it?
Is it Against All Odds? I thought it was. Maybe that's the name of a song on the.
I think it's yeah.
Now I got to look it up. You know, because it's going to bug me forever. What do we do with
dramatized versions of historical events? That reminds me of Drunk History.
Right.
Y'all ever watch Drunk History? Man, that show's hilarious.
Yes. The cover of the Phil Collins song Against All Odds that they did was really good.
No,
anyway,
it wasn't.
Sorry. I keep going down a rat hole. Your favorite plugin that is not a render engine.
Yeah, so I mean that is the tougher one. I do use several plugins. The boring answer would be Nitro Bake for Cinema 4D, where I just anytime I have I need to do like cloth simulations or I have like any sort of weird issue that might occur with like Cinema 4D, I'll just bring out Nitro Bake and just bake the whole thing down into an Alembic or any sort of thing, and that it's like the brute force way of trying to fix an issue, pretty much. So I'll do that a lot. But the more exciting plugins, I would say, things like Optical Glow. I was a huge fan of when I first found that, because the glow effect in After Effects is not very good.
Awful. Yes.
Yeah. It does not look great in any way. So that one's so cool, just to put that on like any sort of, especially if I'm doing like an emission render pass and just putting Optical Glow on it after the fact. It looks great and it looks really natural. That are optical flares. I also have been using that for like so many years. And that one also creates like great things. Recently, I've replaced optical flares with the new one, real lens flares that Red Giant came out with like the other month. So because that one has like even more of like a more realistic quality to it that I find to be like very appealing.
I'll have to try that out.
I'm just video co-pilot all the way every time, old school.
Yeah. Exactly.
How much After Effects work do you do?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not sure how much would count as a lot, but I definitely do. I mean, I do all my compositing in that. And as far as compositing goes, it really varies project to project. For Grump of the Night, it was basically just putting the TV image on the shot by shot basis, adding vignettes, color correction. But for things like Cyber Kicks, there's a lot more. I say I do like a medium amount of After Effects work. I was
gonna say I was curious if you had done any like 2D animation with it, because the setup that you have for your facial rig is very similar to like a joysticks and sliders type thing,
Yeah, if you look back on our website, you'll get down to my actual 2D animation days, where that's all done in After Effects, using a bunch of 3D layers and various controls for characters and things like that. So I've done my fair share of After Effects animation, which is in no way a speedy process, at least back in like 2016, 2017, when I really was into that. But yeah, I definitely have some experience with it.
Oh, we keep saying that cinema needs like a full-blown like 2D rig, because
2D,
like it's just so good at doing 2D stuff.
Yeah,
but you gotta set it up yourself to do that. Like a full like solution would be amazing, because I mean you get the real-time feedback in your viewport. That's the thing. Like it's hard to do that in After Effects.
It's
because you need
it is not real time.
You need more than one frame to render, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like being able to do shape layers, and like honestly, if you were just able to stick in like the frontal view or whatever, and be able to do shape layers and like adjust everything by layer, I don't know. Come on, Max.
Yeah, definitely something like what Blender has for sure. I've seen some awesome stuff with that.
Yep. App. What is your muscle memory go-to app on your phone when you open it up?
When I open it up, I mean, on average, I wouldn't say there's like a one that'll go to very often, because I'm not on my phone too much, because that'll definitely take away from my creativity. But if I could recommend an app that I love to use when I'm actually doing animation, that would be Camtrack VR. That one, I'm just able to take my phone, use its like AR capabilities, and actually record the camera motion in 3D space, and take that into like Cinema 4D and use that as like a handheld camera pretty much. And so I use that all the time on like it's in a bunch of shots in Grump of the Night, it's everywhere in Cyber Kicks, just because it really beats just taking like a camera and putting like a vibrate tag on it in Cinema 4D. It creates like a much more chaotic look, which I'm such a huge fan of. And I can get it.
What is that called again?
Camtrack VR.
Yeah, Camtrack VR.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, Camtrack AR. Sorry.
AR. Okay, I got it.
But that one's a great one. You do have to like pay like some money for it, but like I'm just able to, the fact that I'm able to basically really quickly, in like basically like a minute, go from recording camera motion into Cinema 4D, cleaning that up, and then I have just like this awesome looking camera motion. I think is so cool.
That's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah. I did something like that a while back just as an experiment, and I saw that Corridor, I think Ren at Corridor was using some sort of thing he brings into After Effects, and then he like exports all these layers, but this seems a lot easier to use. So
yeah, no, I think they definitely did use Camtrack AR on something at one point, but I don't think they ever used it on like a official big project.
Yeah. The next question is video game. Do you play video games?
Not very often. If I were to recommend any video games, they are from around 2010, which is when I last was like at my peak of playing video games. So things like Halo Reach and Arkham Asylum, I was a big fan of and played a lot of back in the day. So that would be my recommendation for that.
Good.
Yeah, Halo Reach is my favorite Halo game. I think it's the good all around.
Halo Infinite sucks.
It's not bad. It's not
I only
bad.
played one round of Halo Infinite, so I can't really comment on that.
Yeah.
But
5,
think
I
Halo
still like
had
5.
the best
I still-
aesthetic and all that.
Yeah.
I
I
still
didn't
love
like
5
5.
as well.
You
5
got to join
was,
us.
5 was the one that I started on of all the Halo games.
Yeah.
It was my first Halo game.
Yeah,
So-
I did not play very much of 5 when I got it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to join us. We have a group of like 30 motion designers, and we all play Halo when we get a chance. Not very often lately.
Yeah.
Played last night with Jags a little bit, but you know, it's fun. It's fun to break away with a crew like that and play a video game because you're still having the banter probably about motion graphics while you're playing the video games. So you don't feel like you're wasting as much time because it's kind of like a meetup, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and plus you can write it off.
Write it off, right?
Yeah, write it off.
That's funny.
The last question on here is your favorite life hack. I know that's a
yes.
toughie.
Yeah, I mean, so this one's not going to be very interesting for most people, but I love to make chocolate chip cookies sometimes. And my life hack for that is if most chocolate chip cookies they'll have like 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, but if you double it and do 2 teaspoons, it will not overwhelm the cookies with too much vanilla and actually makes it a lot more appealing, at least for me, which is someone who likes more of the vanilla-y taste from chocolate chip cookies as opposed to pouring in all the chips and having these super melty chocolatey things.
All right. That's pretty
All
good.
right.
Yep.
That's good.
I like it.
That's the best I got.
That's good. That's good though. So that's it for the Mograph recommends. There's a question that I was trying to find. Brett, C4D is in many studios, but in so many jobs, the producers bring in a Maya team to handle even the simplest characters. Have you found this too?
That is
Cinema.
absolutely the case. Everyone else uses Maya for animation. I've not run across any like animation team that actually uses it for doing character animation. So whenever we have to work with like outside animators, they'll always build the rigs and do the animation in Maya, and then we have to basically get Olympics from that and put it all into Cinema 4D and texture it from there, which I would love to have it all be in Cinema 4D, but at least doing that workflow, we have access to everyone else who does animation, as opposed to trying to stick right to Cinema 4D animators.
Yeah,
Have you messed around with Maya at all?
Yeah, I've done a few things. I definitely learned some Maya back in the day. I'm not a huge fan of Maya. It is far more unwieldy in the times I have to use it. Going between Maya and Cinema 4D, like that really shows how much more user friendly and sort of logical Cinema 4D is compared to it. Just trying to do the most basic things, but at the same time, I'm not a Maya expert, so I might just be missing something.
Yeah.
Well, Jags had some things he was trying to work through, and he had to get an indie version of Maya, indie license.
Yeah, that's the one
to
I
make
have.
it. Yeah, and it's just, I think we talked to a couple people over email, and at some point we're gonna sit down, I think, with like maybe Noseman or Jonas or somebody, and really go through like the issues that we're having that we can't seem to figure out in our process, right? Because like Jags has a little more experience. I'm really new to the character thing, but there's still some things like going from Rococo into Cinema where for some reason people still are jumping into Maya. And it's like, why? Why? Like, how can we figure this out? Because like a streamlined workflow, there's got to be something you know, there's got to be like a day, like 10 years from now, where this process is not so complicated and there's not so much cleanup, and you know what I mean. It's tough.
One day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the well, actually, if there's more questions in the chat, I'll give you another minute here. I wanted to hop to something else real quick and say that I got my invite to Dolly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I gotta say, I'm not that impressed compared to Midjourney.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I
yeah.
The other day, like 2 days ago, I got the Dolly 2 thing. I was able to mess around with it. Midjourney is like so much better. It's definitely like Dolly makes some great looking like final images, kind of like stock photos for sure. But like I just put in like, you know, like a mildly creative prompt into Dolly, and it just kind of came up with like a normal like stock photo of like, you know, food or whatever. And Midjourney, yeah, you can put like anything into that. It creates the wildest looking things that actually fit into your prompt, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really thought that in getting this invite that I was going to be able to, like, you know, take my prompts that I had from Midjourney, right? And then like put the same prompts and get some really, really clean versions of what I was doing in Midjourney. And it just doesn't seem like that's the case. And I don't understand, like, the stuff that I'm seeing right now from the stuff that I'm seeing from Midjourney is incredible because they upgraded too. But the things in Dolly are just so clean, and I guess I expected that. But there's no soul, there's no art direction to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of Matt, you're trying to get rid of this spam. You could just ask me. I could just clear the chat.
Fine.
Man, the spam on YouTube recently has just been awful. Nobody cares about whatever site this is, y'all. We don't care.
Yeah.
We literally don't care. Like, who is even going to go to that site?
Thanks,
like,
Brett.
Yeah. There we go. But yeah, I was. The other thing about Dolly is that you really don't have that many credits. You know, even if you pay, and I'm like, oh man, like you could just. It's easy to, you can pay your $30 a month for Midjourney, and then you can sit there and just like riff, you know, and you're not worried about it. Your credits.
I saw an announcement from Midjourney yesterday saying that like all the people who have joined who haven't actually done a thing, they're going to start kicking them off because they're going to hit 1 million users in their Discord. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world are you going to continue a company like this? Like at capping yourself at 1 million people, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, sure, that's, gosh, what, $30 million a month or something if you've got that many people paying, but still it's like you are limiting yourself by only doing it on Discord, you know?
Yeah.
They need an actual physical website in order to be able to put all these prompts in and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the thing I love about Dolly, at least, is they have the very clean webpage that, you know, you're not like seeing everyone's like art pieces as they like fly by in this Discord chat. It's just very sort of streamlined. And also, just if they could get like even in like an iPhone app or something for Midjourney that, you know, because there are other like AI art apps that are very clean, but they're just not as good as Midjourney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get Midjourney to work on the mobile version of Discord. Have you? Am I doing? Is there something you have to do?
Yeah, I've gotten it.
Because if I type /prompt, I don't get that little box thingy. Or I'm sorry, /imagine and get the prompt field. Am I doing something wrong, or? Because I want to be able to do it on my phone if I can, but I haven't been able to get it to work.
I go through Discord on my phone all the time. You know.
You actually use Midjourney on your
in
phone?
Discord on my phone.
Well, how do you do the prompt thingy? Does it not change?
You just do /prompt or / imagine.
And it works for you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. It doesn't work for me. I guess I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I don't know.
I ran out of credits. I want to pay for it, but I just can't right now. I just don't want to right now. You know?
I pay for it because I like the, you know, like you were saying, I don't like to go through the stream, put all my stuff like out in the open like that, you know, I like to. I don't want people to know the stupid things that I'm making. Like, I don't know.
I think it's fun being in one of those things and just seeing the random things that people are either making or iterating on. Like, there's been a few that I've actually saved, and I'm like, this is cool. I want to remake this. You know?
Yeah, it gives you great ideas. People are very creative with their prompts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going in here trying to figure out how I can get rid of these stupid. They changed the way they do it. I don't know where the hold is. There used to be like a chat delay. Stupid spammers. Stupid spammers.
Matt Zipper asked, just noticed the little hamburger guy Easter egg in your Infinite Journey submission. Are there any other Easter eggs in that? Or any other work that you've done?
Yeah, in that one there is the right next to the hamburger guy. There is the wizard sword wielding character from another one of my smaller shorts. And then on the other side, you got like the poster for Cyber Kicks that I made just for that project, just for Space Nobblers. And then, I mean, Easter egg wise, there's always like a bunch of little things you can spot, like the Windows 95 screensaver.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, things like. But in terms of that's basically as much as I think was appropriate to like sort of cram into one scene without it feeling crazy cluttered. So, but yeah, those are the big ones. I don't think there's anything else outside of just little details you can spot, like world building details.
Well, you do that in your room too, there behind you. You've got and you can't see it as much on our show but you can see it on the one we did last week with Max on the to your, I guess it would be to your left if you could see beyond that. I can see it in Skype. You've got all the characters on your shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love the idea of.
So that's not is that a render in your background?
That's just that is a render.
That's funny.
Here, I'll bring up the green.
Of being able to.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can see my Skype right there.
So
there you
funny.
go.
Yeah, I love the idea of taking like the characters I made, just their rigs, and just putting them onto like a shelf, as if I had made them in person with my non-existent sculpting skills. But yeah, so this whole thing is just like a background I made for any sort of like Skype calls or what have you, just because I thought it would be pretty fun to just have like my own like super polished looking environment with all like all the characters.
Your background's very badass.
It's an illusion, Michael.
Well lit.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to match the actual lights in here so it looked at least a little bit good. Yeah, I even have like a little light for this computer screen that you can't see.
Yeah, that's funny.
As well. So
what's out the window there?
That is a stock photo of some kind of city at night.
All right.
Yeah. So in theory, this is like an apartment building that I live in.
Yeah.
So, in some undisclosed city, but yeah.
That's funny. The only other note I had, and this is a little outdated now, but Aryev's Mirror Box contest, where you have to watch his stuff inebriated by the marijuana and react to his video. But I believe the contest on that is over now. So, but still check it out because the submissions on it were funny, and I submitted one as well. Any other questions before we wrap up here? I don't see anything else going on in the chat.
Chris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm very jealous of your skills. Very.
Do you have separate accounts for like the business and your stuff, or is it all in one place? How can people find you online?
Yeah, I mean the main place to find me is basically my Instagram/YouTube, which is basically where I put all my main stuff. And the business will just basically post everything I post after the fact. But
nice.
Yeah, to find me, that would be at my Instagram, which is just my name, Kris Theorin, no space. And then my YouTube is linked from there. But yeah, those are my main two places, and that's where I'll be posting my short film whenever it gets done in the next like month and a half.
Before camp.
Right before camp.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right.
I would be
No
very
pressure.
disappointed if by then it was not done, but
Finish it early and come to Half Res and hang out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
We'll celebrate. We're going to get out of here, though. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review on your podcatcher of choice, and subscribe. Helps get our ratings up. You can subscribe to the newsletter, goes out every once in a while, slowing it down a little bit. You can say you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babb Fuel the Bab 2020 shirt. All the profits from that go to Doctors Without Borders. The Render Things t-shirt, hoodie, and long sleeve tee, the Mograph Blandishment shirt, and then the That Render is Fire shirt, which you are only allowed to wear ironically, unless you're Shams. Now, I hope I get to see Shams up in Vancouver, but I think there's a rumor that she is not going to be around. All these people in Vancouver are like not going to be there, unfortunately. Like, stuff's going on. Like, I talked to Fuck Render the other day. I think he's out of town. So we'll be going all the way to Vancouver to hang out with our friends from here in the States, I guess.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
So if you are going to Seagraph, though, please come and say hi. I really don't know. Seagraph is a little more laid back on the partying than NAB is. So I don't know if anything really is going on or not, but please come by and say hi. Come check out the Maxon booth. You know, I'm sure something will be going on at night. I have no idea what. Maybe we can meet up and have a drink. There was something else. Oh yeah, of course, Brandon's course is out. Make sure you check that out. If you want to learn about ray tracing in Unreal Engine 4 and 5, he's constantly doing updates for it now since 5 is out. We've got some updates already that we're working on that we're going to try and roll out. And of course, check out all the other courses we have too. They're amazing. And go to mograph.com/TV and check out Mograph TV. It's running 24/7. You can turn it on and rip the knob off and just hang out with Mograph friends instead of watching like news and getting all depressed and stuff, you know. I think it's a much better way to go. Yeah. I think that's about it. We're on YouTube and mograph.com. Check there for schedule information on some of the shows. We got kind of like sporadic dates for some of the shows coming up. We haven't filled all the dates, and we've got some time off. Also, the other thing is if you live in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, we're going to be around there the week after SIGGRAPH, doing that the
18th. We will be speaking on the 18th.
It's the 18th. Yeah. I'm trying to bring up my calendar and make sure that I have all of this stuff right. Yeah, the 18th. Yes. So hit us up on all the things. I'm sure you can find us on the internet somewhere. So I think that's about it, though. We're going to get out of here. Till next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.
All right, stand by one moment here.